because there are a lot of microphones here. So we are going to be trying to find our way into what our leaders have asked us to speak to you about today.
Everybody pause for the leopard. Nobody touch him, no pause.
Okay. Welcome to Musings of a Madman. I am your host. I am the last operator of the universe, and today I want to talk about relationships, essentially, or rather bonding, to be precise. How people how if it's two people, how two people can become friends and sort of learn to read each other's wavelengths. They become such good friends that they can talk around each other comfortably and without fear, without fear of judgment, without fear of criticism, without fear of like mistrust or anything like that. Where you feel like you can sort of be yourself, essentially. That whole be yourself thing. And okay, so what I want to say about it is I have come to the conclusion that I may have lost it. I may not be capable of permanent bonding anymore. And I guess this goes back to my childhood. We can talk about attachment styles and how I was raised. But yeah, that bonding thing where you feel you can share anything you want. I don't have, so far, as far as I've seen most of my relationships, I don't have a moment where I can just completely let go. There are one or two people in my past. Okay, there are a couple of people in my past or in my life who I have, who I've been around, and then I am myself. I don't have to sort of put on a show. There's no mask. There's no making sure you don't say something or making sure you don't say too much or anything like that. I don't want to mention them by names because I might skip a few, but let's focus on the idea that I can't really bond well with people. I guess it would start back when I was a child. As a kid, when I was younger, I was an only child for about 7 years. And 7 years into my life, just living who I am, or rather 6 years probably, 7 years into my life, I'm just being the only child, being pampered, being spoiled, being loved, okay, just unadulterated love, man. They love you because you are you, you could be a screw up, you could be a slow progressor, you might not even be able to talk, or you might be horrible with them, you might be bratty, but I was loved, okay, my parents loved me. Then my younger brother comes along, and I feel like that was sort of the catalyst, what led to me having a mistrust of people in general, just a nice level of suspicion about every person you meet, including your parents in this case. So yeah, when he was born, it was sort of fine. I had a younger brother. It was cool, understood he needs to get most of the attention. But as time went on, right, I think when he was like 3 or 4 years old, I wanted something. I asked them for something, and they said, did they say no or yes? Yeah, they said no, honestly. I would ask them for things and they would just say, no, we can't get you this, we can't get you that. But when my brother asks, he gets it immediately, or there is no debate, he's gonna get it. So on one occasion, they went out and they bought things, things the kid needed, things that we needed in the house, groceries or whatever. And when they came back, I had asked them for something. Before they came back, I had asked them to bring me something as well. And they came home, and I don't know what it was exactly, but all I know is I was very disappointed. I know that I had a feeling of betrayal because they got my brother something and I didn't get something, and I feel like I was the one who needed something at that moment. Let's not think too deeply about it. But yeah, so from that moment on, I had a dangerous level of mistrust about my parents. I did not trust them with my full feelings. If I asked them for something, I would hold back. If I wanted something, I'd hold back because I would know, even if they say no, it's fine because you prepared yourself. So essentially, I had decided to find a way to deal with disappointment around me. In this case, mostly my parents, but I sort of expanded it down to everybody else. So I've learned to sort of expect disappointment from people, this makes me feel judgy or sound judgy, but yeah, I've learned to sort of plan for the worst in any possible situation. Yeah. And this goes back to the bonding thing, where even with my friends, amongst my friends, as I grew up, right? I mean, sure, I had friendships that were tight. As a kid, you're carefree. You don't. There is no time to hold back. Your friends know everything about you. But somewhere around high school, I noticed a trend, a difference in the way I sort of took on relationships and friendships. In high school, I felt like having friends was just a way to avoid being bored and having nothing to do while you're at school. I would see it everywhere. People hung out because they wanted to pass the time well. Or rather, I hung out because I wanted to pass the time well. I didn't particularly like being alone while there are people around me, but I didn't want to be around people as well. So, yeah, don't get me wrong, I don't hate people. The issue was high school me wanted to be at home a lot. High school me did not care for extra shenanigans. So at school, I would try to arrive as late as possible. If it was in the morning and you have classes or whatever, I tried to arrive as late as possible, or rather as close as possible to the time for us to enter the classrooms and all that, because I did not have the motivations to have conversations about just anything really. I didn't like the jokes we had. I didn't like what we talked about. I didn't like just the very atmosphere of how we were there. So for me, I had friends sort of to pass the time. I had friends to basically not be alone, or rather not to be seen alone, essentially. I think the fear of being seen alone was worse than actually being alone. And yeah, school, I would finish up and immediately I'm heading out, man. I want to go home, I don't want to stay there and talk for hours and hours, although sometimes we did. I don't want to find things we can do outside of school, although sometimes we did. I also noticed the same thing in karate. When I would come to school, to karate, right, I wouldn't want to mingle or whatever, so I would also arrive as late as possible. I would arrive as late as possible so that when I arrived, we immediately start training. There's no time to talk, and there's no time to also do warm-ups. I hated warm-ups back then, but now I see the wisdom in them. So yeah, the whole being around people, I think, is an issue for me. Being around people when I don't have to be, let's say that. Like, you can see me at school, when it's school time, I'm chilled, okay, I'm comfortable. You can see me in the dojo. You could see me in the dojo when I was training. I loved every minute of it. I was socializing, talking to people, just interacting. But I just didn't want time around it for some reason. For me, I like things that start and then they end as planned for some reason. Even amongst my friends, it's one thing I noticed was my original friend group. I've had friends who I've been friends with for more than 5 years easily, right? And the major friend group that I have sort of started out with a smaller version of it and then sort of expanded later on. And before it expanded, there were like 3 of us, me, Tyson, and Wilbert. Now the 3 of us had this sort of thing where we were cool, we hung out all the time, we found reason to chill together, we drank together, all this stuff, right? But we had this thing which I didn't notice until the new friend group showed up. We had this thing where when we meet up, we don't talk, or rather we don't greet. We don't say, hey, what's up? We don't shake hands. We just dive into it, like, yo, man, did you see that episode or whatever? Or yo, are we going to this thing? It wasn't. There was no introduction, no greeting point. We never used to shake hands. And then when the friend group sort of expanded out to involve others, right, about 3 others, we started doing it, But I never noticed it was an issue, or rather it happened before then. Sure, I would shake hands with other people, but with these people, I was like, nah, there's no need to shake hands. So yeah, I feel like I sort of strayed from the topic of discussion here. Bonding, I was saying, yes. Yeah, I feel like the handshake thing, the handshakes, the arriving late and avoiding extra moments to talk with people, it's also a way for me to avoid bonding with people. It's a way for me to avoid being close to people, And I think, yeah, naturally I'm a quiet guy. That might also be a part of it. I don't like giving away too much. You know, even when I meet somebody and we have something genuinely in common, you know, and they're talking about it and I know a lot about it, you know, that's normally when you can jump in and say a lot, but it's quite difficult for me, you know. And it's especially difficult when someone asks you about yourself, you know. I went to Swakop recently, and one question that I've been asked a lot was, you know, how was Swakop? And I'm like, it was fine. Then they're like, that's it? And I'm like, yeah, and this happened and that happened. I'm like, do you want me to tell you everything or my general impression? I don't understand the question. That's clearly the problem there. And I also don't know how to share a lot. That's also another problem. But the bonding thing, yes, bonding. Why do we bond? And, you know, why do we find reasons to spend extra time with people who we don't have to spend extra time with? Why do we tell people extra things about ourselves and let them tell us things about themselves? It's like, it is bonding, you know. You're trying to share yourself with someone, and you're trying to have them share themselves with you. You know, no dirty thoughts intended there. And it's human nature, isn't it? It shouldn't be. It feels like it should be human nature. This is how we function. We are social beings. We need other people to be around us. We need other people to be with us. Like loneliness, being alone is not something we generally thrive at. A human being by themselves is not as powerful as a group of human beings. And we know this innately. I think we know it instinctively, and it just happens without us thinking about it. And like the bonding process is fun, you know. But I feel like we're going back to me again. Yeah. I feel like I've lost a certain step in that, because I can be around people, I can tell people things about myself, I can share and allow them to share, but there'll always be that one part that I'm holding back. And now that I think about it, I think it just goes back to what my parents did to me. Yeah, man, they screwed me over. No offense. It does not mean, it's not intended to be mean, but I feel like that's where it started, and that's from there on I've sort of grown it into this big monster. This big monster that eats up all my bonding moments. Yeah, I noticed it as well, especially around you know, there are people who you can talk to comfortably. You can tell them literally anything, or they tell you literally anything, and it feels, there's a flow about it, you know. There's no effort, nothing is tried about it. I have people like that in my life, right? But I can still feel that thing where I'm holding back. I can always find something that I'm just sort of like covering and protecting from view from the rest of the world. And it might not be the same thing that I show. Might not be the same thing that I hide from other people, but I might hide it from them specifically, you know? Yeah, man. Just what I'm trying to say is, you know, I've sort of lost the ability to share about myself, share about life. You know, it's mostly why I started doing this, because I'm generally opinionated, but I do not share my opinions. Yeah, I think we've rambled on for long enough. This has been the Musings of a Madman. Well, if we want to draw a lesson from this, if I want to draw a lesson from this, I'd say, I don't know, don't force it. If it does not come naturally, it should not be forced. You know, I've had situations where somebody's trying to be friends with me, right? Or they're trying to bond with me, and I keep holding the brace, or rather I'm passive about it, because I'm not that into it, or rather I don't want to say that into it, but I'm not pushing for it to be that simple, you know. It should take time, it should be gradual. We should be able to sit silently together and still be, yeah, I think I've rambled on for way too long now. Yeah. Well, this is actual Musings of a Madman. Jeez, I sound crazy. But yeah, relationships, friendships, essentially, is what I was trying to discuss. I was trying to discuss the whole reason why the reason why I think I do not bond well, the reasons why most people bond well, and now that I'm just breaking it down, I'd say it just comes down to whether or not you're comfortable being an extrovert around certain people. It's something that you need to generate and sort of put effort into. You need to try it, practice it, and then do it. For me personally, I feel like it's too late because I'm way too laid back about it. You know, I don't. This stage in my life, I'd say I enjoy the finality of things. You know, I like going to school and leaving immediately. I like going to the gym and leaving as planned immediately. You know, no detours. I feel like any little distraction on the path of what you're doing in your day, it sort of boggles my mind. Yeah, that's another reason why I think bonding doesn't work out well for me, because bonding usually happens during impromptu moments. You know, it has to be spontaneous. It's not planned. It just flows, right? And during that time, I have plans already in my head. I'm already thinking, shit, I have 10 minutes to do this, 15 minutes to do that. Generally, you know, that's why I keep the watch on me, and that's why I keep it like 10 or so minutes ahead. So I'm usually never late. But yeah, we don't have the time management for bonding, personally. Yeah, we should fix that this year, or at least slightly. Anyways, this has been the Musings of a Madman. I was your host. Yeah.